evening, everyone. My name is Oscar Pardo. I am the program chair for Cien, and welcome again to another program. This time we're going to be tackling the topic of immigration reform. It's great to have you with us this evening. First of all, I want to say thank you to all our continued sponsors, whose without your support, we could not make these programs happen. You guys all know who you are. But we want to thank you wholeheartedly for giving us the opportunity to present programs like the one we're going to do tonight to inform our community as best as we can. I'm going to start off by introducing our moderator for this evening, Ms. Lisa Carreño. She is a founding board member of Cien and the executive director of the United Ways of the Wine Country. And before we get started with any further substantive information, I want to remind everyone that if you're joining us on Zoom, there is a translation button at the bottom of your screen. If you want to hear this programming in Spanish, click on that translation button and you will hear Betsy Chavez translating this program for you fully in Spanish. This program is also being streamed on Facebook Live, and it's also being presented on local radio station KBBF for your listening pleasure. So without further ado, I pass this program along to Ms. Carreño. Take it away.
Gracias. Good evening, everybody. Lisa Carreño with United Way of the Wine Country, and also on behalf of the Board of Directors of Cien, Sonoma County. We are pleased to present tonight's program in collaboration with the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative. Tonight, an expert panel for this conversation has been assembled by the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative, and it's going to tell you about immigration reform legislation currently pending at the federal level. But in addition to that, we're going to be talking about legal help available to Sonoma County individuals and families today through the collaborative. Among the information that will be shared with you today will be information about actual legal resources and the kind of information that you need to provide or be able to provide so that you can petition for legal status in the United States. In addition, we have a segment that is exclusively dedicated to talking about the mental health toll of being undocumented in the United States. And finally, we're going to spend some time talking about what we can be doing together as a community to support our immigrant community. Before I introduce our panelists, I want to share a little bit of the backstory on the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative. You may not be aware of this, but going back to the 2015 presidential campaign, the 2016 election, the vitriol of that election, the rhetoric of that election, the strong anti-immigrant sentiment of that election really brought out and revealed the broad xenophobia in the United States of America. And as a result of that, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors was inspired to establish the study group that led to the creation of the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative. Back then, the Board of Supervisors understood that there is a void in services to our immigrant community, and that they decided to step into that void in order to amass the resources needed to begin to help defend individuals and families from deportation. Recall that that election revealed the political agendas and the length to which people in the federal government would be willing to go to demonize, dehumanize, and incarcerate immigrants, no matter what their age is, and importantly, no matter what their legal status was in the United States as well. Enter the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative to begin to provide support. Whether or not we realize this affects everyone in our community, not just our immigrant community. So join us now to hear from this panel of experts, and especially listen closely as what they share touches the lives not only of thousands of Sonoma Countyans, but most especially thousands of young Sonoma Countyans who are potentially at risk if we don't get this federal legislation passed. The dreamers, they are the future of our community and the lifeblood of the innovation, the entrepreneurship, the prosperity that we look forward to as we rebuild our community in the wake of natural disasters and this pandemic. Before I introduce the panel, I want to be sure to give a shout out to the founders and the supporters of the collaborative over these past few years. Without their leadership, without their vision, without their commitment, without their deep understanding of equity, we wouldn't be here today and with this esteemed panel. So first and foremost, because you stepped into the leadership void and said, we're going to do this no matter what's happening, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. Secondly, I want to say big shout out to County Council, retired County Council now, Bruce Goldstein, and Sonoma County's new equity officer, Alegria de la Cruz, who really championed and led and coordinated the effort to form the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative. And then to Bill Hing, Professor Bill Hing, and also Jacqueline Scott Brown for their leadership and the legal brilliance and vision that they bring to the work that is happening. Finally, I want to give a shout out to our generous donors, the Federated Indians of the Great Rancheria, the Peter Haas Jr. Fund, City of Santa Rosa, County of Sonoma, Van Lobensel's Roborock Foundation, the Community Foundation, Sonoma County Vintners Foundation, and the Zellerbach Family Foundation. So thanks to all of them, we are here. Having said all that, let me introduce our panelists. And my brief introductions are not going to do any justice to the rock stars that these people really are in this field and in the community. Nidia Nathan Pino is a policy attorney and strategist based in Washington, D.C. She focuses on federal legislative advocacy at the Immigration Legal Resource Center. I also want to add Nidia's background in her bachelor's and her legal degree. She earned her law degree, she earned her bachelor's degree in Spanish and political science at Tufts, and then she went to the Brooklyn Law School. She's admitted to practice law in Texas and New Jersey. I'm saying that to all of the young people who are listening to this program today. Nidia is a role model and a mentor and a coach for all of you young people who aspire to enter this field. Secondly, I want to introduce Margaret Flores McCabe. Margaret is the executive director of the Sonoma County Secure Families Fund. She is a daughter of two parents who were field workers as children and worked for 25 years in the for-profit world as a successful real estate investor and small business owner. Today, she is the executive director of the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative, and I can assure you we wouldn't be having this conversation today but for Margaret's leadership. So thank you, Margaret, for joining us. Thirdly, we're going to hear from Nubia Padilla. She graduated with a Master's of Arts in Psychology, Organizational Development at Sonoma State University, and has a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from the National University in Colombia. She is the Executive Director of Humanidad, Therapy and Education Services, and is the key strategic partner to the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative today. And then finally, Luis Robles has lived in Sonoma County for over 15 years and has become a Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative client. He graduated from Roseland University Prep in May of 2020. He's currently attending Sonoma State University, and he's majoring in criminal justice and expects to graduate from Sonoma State in May 2024. I'm going to turn the program over now to Nidia.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Lisa, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I'm Nithya Nathan Pinot. I work at the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, which was founded by Professor Bill Hing, so honored to be here and to represent the ILRC. We're a national nonprofit organization that's dedicated to technical assistance, capacity building, and policy advocacy, and our approach is really guided by community. We don't push for policy solutions that we don't believe will actually help the people who are most impacted. And we take our direction and all of our policy goals from our community partners. So I really appreciate you all making time to talk about federal policy, because I know sometimes it feels like what's happening in DC is very distant, very disconnected, but we all know that it has so much impact on our families, on our communities, and on everyone that's around us. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in DC and federal immigration policy, and I'm going to focus on sort of what's happened in the last, 3 or 4 months that President Biden has been in since his inauguration, what he's been able to do. When we were looking at the beginning of the Biden administration, we knew that they were coming into an extremely challenging environment. During the past 4 years, we saw how an administration with a truly anti-immigrant agenda could weaponize the laws that were already on the books and put scores of executive orders and regulations into place that dismantled all of the positive systems that existed and built up the detention and deportation machine that exists within this country. And we saw the devastating impact that that had on our families and the way that so many of our communities and our neighbors are living in fear. I think what we see, is that really taught us we need both administrative change and we need legislation. It's not enough to have a change in president, to have a president who puts new executive orders in place. What we also have to push for is a change in legislation. And so President Biden took a pretty strong stance early on by introducing the U.S. Citizenship Act. And the U.S. Citizenship Act is a very broad piece of legislation that covers everything from family-based immigration to asylum, to addressing root causes of migration in Central America, reestablishing refugee programs. It covers so many topics, and the centerpiece of it is a path to citizenship for people who are living in the United States without status. That's the most important piece of it. Something like that has not passed in federal legislation since the 1980s. We haven't had a program like that for decades. So it is a really key, important statement from the administration that creating a path to status for folks who are here without status is a priority. We've also seen other bills that are part of what's called legalization or a path to status for folks who are without status. The Dream and Promise Act is a bill that provides that path to citizenship for dreamers and for TPS holders. That bill actually has already been voted on in the House of Representatives and had a successful vote in March. There's also the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which creates a path to citizenship for people who have worked in the agricultural industry. Even if they have been without status during the entire time that they've been working, they could still be eligible to be on the path to citizenship with the program that's created in that bill. That bill also passed the House of Representatives back in March. What we need to sort of mobilize and have people talking about is we want to see the Senate take up these bills. We want to see the Senate push these bills. We want to see them incorporate the language into what's called a must-pass bill, maybe use the budget reconciliation process. We want to use all the tools that are available to us to continue to push forward action in DC. And I just want to highlight the Dream and Promise Act and the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, because both of those bills represent organizing success It's years, if not decades, of young people, dreamers who've been organizing, TPS holders who've been organizing, agricultural workers all over the country who have been demanding the right to live here with dignity and safety and to live with their families. So the fact that that legislation has made it to the House of Representatives, has had a successful vote in the House of Representatives, it's, you know, all of that success is from the power of community. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what the administration has done as well, but then I want to come back to what you can do and how you can get involved, because your representatives should hear from you about what your priorities are and what you want to see happen. And so that's just a little bit. I just want to make sure that we like talk about that. And if you leave with only like one thing from what I'm saying, it's that any progress in Congress is only going to come if our members of Congress, our elected representatives and senators, hear from us that this is a priority. And you know, I started off by talking about the power that an administration has. The Biden administration came in and right away put into place a lot of executive orders. You know, they rescinded the Muslim and African ban. They stopped the border wall construction. They halted the Migration Protection Protocol program, which was the program that forced asylum seekers to stay on the Mexican side of the US-Mexico border. They reinstated DACA, they put a deportation moratorium in place, and they created different enforcement priorities. And so all of these were steps in the right direction. We, like all of our community partners, want to see more because we know there are so many more steps that need to be taken, not just to fix what was broken by the Trump administration, but to push even further to a vision of a world where our immigration system is really treats people with humanity and dignity. And, you know, one of the things that I also want to talk about that's really relevant to California is the way that unaccompanied immigrant children who have actually, as a policy change in this administration, been allowed to enter the United States, have been treated, and the way that they have been housed in what a new type of program that's called an emergency intake site. And these are all over California. They're in San Diego. There's a large one in Long Beach. There's one that is going to be opening in Fresno, and there's others that are rumored in Northern California. And so, you know, one of the things that we talk about is that we want to decarcerate the immigration system. We don't want people to be detained. We don't want people to be in warehouses. And so when we see children in this environment, it's very concerning that this might be a long-term thing. And so one thing I just wanted to point to is that we have some resources on the ILRC website specifically about what's going on with unaccompanied children and how folks can get involved in talking to their representatives. And also local city council folks are really important in this as well, because they have to be involved in inviting these facilities in to local. And, you know, if it's going to be placed in a city, the local government is involved in that process. So just wanted to sort of flag that as well, because I know that that issue is near and dear to all of our hearts, and particularly as Californians. Many of your neighboring cities, counties may be facing, you know, emergency intake sites being put into place. And so just knowing what you can do and how you can get involved is really important. I think I've gone over my time, and so I want to say thank you, and that I welcome any questions that anyone has for me.
Thanks very much, Nithya. Next up is Margaret.
And Oscar, if you could start the slides, please. And thank you, Nithya, for all that great information, and everyone else for being here this evening. So Lisa shared the history of the Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative, and I wanted to go further and share now where we are today. Right now, We're a collective of various local nonprofits that are offering pro bono immigration legal services to Sonoma County residents. And we've expanded to include wraparound social services and also mental health services. Next. Our key partners right now are the University of San Francisco Deportation and Defense Law Clinic. We have some of the most amazing partners from there. We are very fortunate, as Nithya mentioned, to have Bill Hing, who is the founder of ILRC, and he's been a tremendous mentor to me as we work to build this collaborative. Also, we're very fortunate to have Jacqueline Brown Scott, as she's located in Healdsburg, and she is currently serving our Sonoma County Secure Families Collaborative clients and assisting them with removal and affirmative cases. In addition to that, we also have a partnership, as Lisa mentioned, with Humanidad. And Humanidad, Nubia is on the panel, and she'll share what they do more in depth, but they have been an invaluable partner to us. And we really noticed early on the need for mental health services as the undocumented immigrants in our community have suffered so much under the tyranny of the Trump administration. But it goes further than that. We didn't want to end it at the Trump administration. We realized that they have suffered so much through COVID and fires. The undocumented immigrants in our community have given so much to our community. They are neighbors, they are friends. So we want to be here, the collaborative, to be known as a place, a trusted place where they can access quality legal services as well as wraparound social services. So we've really worked hard to emphasize these getting strong partners that are committed to quality services. In addition to that, we have a partnership with the Santa Rosa Junior College, and where we are working with a culturally competent, culturally relevant mental health counselor in the mental health services department, but also working closely with the Dream Center to expand our service network, knowing how critical it is to get this information for immigration legal services to our youth. There's an actual immigration legal services provider adjacent to the Dream Center. So we've worked very closely with the Junior College to continue to expand those services. In addition, we have this wonderful resource navigator located at Catholic Charities, and he has taken every client, a Sonoma County Secure Families client, and assists them and guides them through the process of securing social service, any form of social services that we feel they need. Next. Before I go into this, what makes our collaborative so unique is that it is a collective effort. Any client can go through any door of any of these nonprofit organizations, either the formal partners that I just mentioned, but we also have a lot of informal partnerships, and they can be assisted with an array of services. The immigration legal services, as we know, status is everything, and that's what we're committed to, assisting in identifying if people have the potential to gain citizenship, access to citizenship, but also do they have needs like housing, or do they have needs for food? They have food insecurity, any of those things. So to launch into our work and our accomplishments, since 2018, we have been fortunate enough, we've been able to serve over 600 individuals and have handled about 250 immigration legal cases. As we all know, removal defense cases are complex. They can take 2 to 9 years to resolve. As Nithya mentioned, there will be an increased service demand due to the immigration reform under the administration, the Biden administration. But we see right now, it's such a fragile situation in terms of immigration. As you see from one administration to another, so we are fearful that the pendulum could swing back. So as Nithya said, it's really important for all of us to engage, to become involved, and to really commit ourselves to assisting the undocumented immigrants in our community, to show them that we support them with not only an array of services, but a commitment to them to make meaningful change so that they do not have to endure this fragility of the changes in the administration. Next. So just to give some example of the cases that we've handled so far, The, 100 removal defense cases, 71% of them were asylum cases, and 11% of those were cancellation of removal. In terms of affirmative cases, we had about 46% were family petitions, and special immigrant juvenile status were 22%. And I want to emphasize it right now. I'd like to acknowledge Maureen McSorley's work and Rafael Vasquez, because they've brought to the attention. We're currently trying to gain funding to be able to assist the youth, because we've identified about 300 youth in Sonoma County who do have a pathway to citizenship. They just don't have the funding to pay for the legal resources that it would require. So we're trying to secure that funding and then be able to assist those 300 individuals. Next. So here, what's really unique about our collaborative, it's the only one in the county that's not only just immigration and legal services, but it's been extremely successful in the social service, wraparound social services. There's a breakdown in terms of the network of partners. We have formal partners, but we also have these informal partners. And we're starting to see this cross connectivity where we're able to help the undocumented immigrant, not only with immigration legal services, but with all the other social services that they might need as well. So just for a few examples, we've helped them with food, housing, and financial assistance through CalFresh, Redwood Food Bank, through food distributions. We've helped them with housing rights, housing assistance, tenant worker rights. We've sent them through financial services, through CHD, assistance at Catholic Charities with their ITINs. So as you can see, we've been able to have a huge impact, not only in terms of immigration legal services, but assisting taking a holistic approach and helping them with so many other services as well. And as we know, those that are poorest in our communities have a tendency to get lost in systems like this. So we made sure that we had a resource navigator who was committed to guiding each and every one of those individuals and checking in to make sure that they were going to get the services that they need. Next. And the same goes with healthcare and mental health services. And Nubia will expand more on all of the great work that has been done over at Humanidad. Because as we know, also this community has suffered greatly because of COVID and because of the fires. So this is, and the hatred that was coming out of the Trump administration. There's still a great deal of healing that needs to happen in this community. Next. So we ask you, we ask for you to a call to action to support the undocumented immigrants in our community, to recognize how valuable they are to us. They are our neighbors, they are our friends, and they are an integral part of Sonoma County. So one of the ways in which we are asking for you to take action is to become politically active and engaged and to learn about the issues that we need to have legislative reform, but we also need funding. So we're hoping that you can join us for one of our first events, our fundraising events. It's called the Immigrants Built the Wine Country. It's a virtual wine tasting and fundraiser. Any contribution would help. It's very costly to run the program because we're focused on providing high quality legal services to these individuals, and it costs a lot to run programs like that. So we ask for your support. It doesn't matter if it's $1 or $1,000, anything makes a difference. So we really appreciate it. Next. So you can contact us directly if you need additional information or would like additional information about the work that we do. And you can also access our website. As we continue to build our immigration and legal services partners, we're very excited about some of the partners that are in the pipeline right now. So we'll be updating our Secure Families Collaborative website, and it's really a place where you'll be able to access not only information about the collaborative itself, but also about our partners and the events that they'll be offering throughout this year as well. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
Margaret, we actually have quite a few questions for you, but if you don't mind, how about if we move on to Nubia and Luis, and then we'll take all of the questions all together.
Sounds good.
Thank you. That was fantastic, and stand by. Nubia?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, first of all, to Cien for creating a space or the stage to have this kind of conversations. First, I will tell you a little bit about Humanidad, but the most important piece I want to explore is why mental health and immigration. That's something after I do a brief review. I will talk a little bit about that. I will share a PowerPoint. I hope everybody sees that. So it's Humanidad Therapy and Education Services, and we have been here in Sonoma County for 7 years. Let me see if I can go next. Our mission is to strengthen the lives of the Latinx community by increasing access and utilizations to community mental health resources. We transcend barriers and reduce stigma by providing culturally proficient therapist training, inclusive community education, and bilingual therapy services. Our vision is to have a healthy and thriving communities where stigmas associated with mental health doesn't exist, and all have access, and I said all, have access and quality and compassionate, culturally sensitive therapy services. So what we do on Humanidad? Let me see. We have bicultural marriage and family therapist training, and we have stream-based therapy counseling services. We provide low-fee bilingual therapy. We have a convivencia model that is part of the California Reducing Disparities Project. There are 35 organizations, and it's part of the big study to determine community-defined evidence practices. We have, as I said before, cultural proficient therapist training and mentoring, inclusive community education, and we have community navigation. And the reason we really want to have the community navigation is because we want to make sure that our clients go through all, they have many obstacles to really sometimes receive the therapy, and we want to make sure that we support them so they can take advantage of the therapy as the most. And I just want to say the convivencia model is, it has been, we use the model to really get to the Latinx community and diminish of work on the stigma, try to bring them in a cultural way to a therapeutic environment, and so they understand how not threatening and how important and how many other people like them need services. So this is what I really want to talk about and explore. It's why immigration and mental health. Immigration is a life-changing event. It's like when you have a baby or when you get divorced. And many people go and look for help, for mental health help, because it's difficult to navigate those life events. So why no immigration? Immigration is even a more difficult event when you have complications, when you come from one environment to the next, and you don't even have the identity that you used to have. So you lose, there is a process of personal loss, and you lose identity, family, friends, you have to start over, and among other things. There is one thing that we observe in our clients is the lack of sense of belonging. And I always talk about belonging because this is a mental health issue. When the person doesn't feel, and as an immigrant myself, I can tell you how important it is to create an environment, to have an environment where you feel that you belong. And that's something that it will be very important if, as a community, all of us as a community can come together and make the person welcome. So that's what we are trying to do, Humanidad, to talk with them, to figure out ways for them to sort all the emotional problems and help them to feel that they belong. We do it by first offering them a person that is trained and that they can relate to, that they speak their language, that they can understand, that we understand what they are going through. So that's what we are offering Humanidad. And that's what we are working with Secure Families Collaborative, because we know that it's not just to go through the lawyer and get the documents. It's much more than that. And we want a community that is thriving. We want a community that all of us feel like we are included, and that's mental health is part of that. So immigration highlights the generational trauma, and I will tell you why it's so important. So when we go to a new place, when we immigrate to a country like this, we bring all the trauma that we had. Everybody has some kind of trauma. We bring that, but we suppress that until we feel safe. And then when we feel safe, we just experience the trauma. And we pass this to our kids and to and it manifests. And for instance, when the person that didn't have a lot of things to eat because they were too the scarcity of food, they provide a lot of food to their kids, trying to make sure that they don't go through that. But that causes other issues. So, or the same thing when somebody was went through domestic violence, so they pass. Sometimes we overprotect the kids because we don't want they experience that. So we explore all of those issues with our clients, and especially when they are immigrants and everybody anyway. Immigration has a compounded effect in the trauma that already exists. I said before, it's difficult to be an immigrant, but it's even more difficult when you already have so much trauma and have experienced so much trauma. And all of us need some help. That's a fact. So we understand that, but it's important to provide that help from the eye to eye. What I want to say is from the person is, not from where we want them to be. And sometimes the system creates such a disparities in the sense that the services are not designed with the people in mind, are designed with the budget in mind, are designed with how the system used to view, but it's not customized to the client. So what we try to do Humanidad is really to customize to the client's needs and to each individual client. So why is important to invest in mental health? Well, with mental health, one of us that experience mental health, anyone, we know how it affects the immediate family. But if we look closely, we realize that it's not just the immediate family, it's the whole community. That's why we see shootings. That's what we see in many places. People homeless. That's why we see drug addiction. It affects the whole community because it has a ripple effect. So that's why it's so important to invest in mental health. We need to invest in solutions that come from the community for the community. So when with the clinical models that exist, many times they don't come from deep knowledge and intentional knowledge of the community. They come from other systems that definitely doesn't work for specific communities. We need to invest in communities that are evidence defined, that have been proven to work, that are based in evaluations, that have based in real life events that have been tested, and people can really go to that and give testimonials that it works. We need to diversify the models to provide mental health, to address disparities, and to work in the community where they are. So for immigrant community, and especially, we need to make sure that we are there where they are, because most of them don't know the system. Most of them have so many obstacles: transportation, childcare, like many of us here in the community, but it's even more difficult when you are new to this place. We need to invest to leverage what already works. And sometimes it's so simple. It's not about investing a lot of money or resources. It's about understanding what works. For instance, could be as simple as to making sure that the person have access to a group of people in the community where they can talk with or relate to. Or it's as simple as having art and music available, and making sure that the person has parks and places to go, and so on and so forth. So we are talking about the determinants of health. And then at last, I want to say that the key is prevention. And I can tell you that prevention is more effective than crisis intervention. It's it's cost effective. And so when we talk about the immigration, it's important to understand that this population in particular needs so much support, because they are coming to explore a new environment. They bring issues that need to be addressed. They are so eager to do things that sometimes they don't take care of those issues, or they think they don't need to. So that's why we are working together with Secure Families Collaborative. And I invite you to visit our website, to call us if you have questions. We are there for the community, and we're still working on get to know more the community, because sometimes what is lacking is cultural humility. We don't pretend to know everything about the community, but what we want and what we do is try to understand every day more the community that we serve. Thank you.
Gracias, Nubia. Moving on to our last panelist, we'd like to hear from Luis. Luis, the floor is yours.
Yeah, definitely. So I do have a couple of questions here. I was given. So when I first came into the United States, it was in 2006. I came with, my family. Originally it was me, my mom, my little brother, and my dad. With my dad, it didn't really work out very well. A lot of, domestic violence. But beyond that, my life before we gained a work permit, it was pretty scary, I'd say. But besides it being scary, it was stressful too. You couldn't really go out, or you would go out, just it's just that thought that you might be taken away, or stripped away from your family. That was more of the scary part, pretty much. And the question I have here: what was it like to learn English and have English as a second language? I learned English from a little book I was given when I first got here. I'm not quite sure about the name, but it was a book, where I spent countless hours, just reading. Most of the time it was my mom forcing me to read it, just so I can get used to the language as soon as possible. And a way that the Secure Families Collaborative has helped me out, it has given me and opened me many doors, that I'm definitely taking advantage of. I have been presented to many mentors. For example, this how do you say it? It's like a group that I attend. That's thanks to the Secure Families Collaborative on Tuesdays, and it's a lot of, it's about us immigrants, and it's just nice to hear, of others, and their stories, it makes you feel like you're not just the only one going through certain, things in life. And yeah, and these legal services that I've been offered pretty much because of Secure Families Collaborative has been really helpful, because I mean, before I was, like I said, I wasn't able to travel or go out. The farthest I've ever been before, me receiving a work permit, was Runner Park. But, once I received my work permit, I was able to get my license, get an ID, just something to, I'm not fully safe, but it just gives me more vote of confidence, I'd say. So now, I go to Sacramento, San Francisco, these tourist spots, that I've always been told at school, I've seen on social media, and now I can see them firsthand, and it's just beautiful to see, what I used to see on my phone, in person. And the group meeting I was talking about, the Dream Center, or, the junior college, they've helped me in ways that are more like mental health too. I struggle with my mental health. I still do. It is an important topic to talk about, like Nubia was, giving us a presentation about. And it helps me keep a balance in life, and I've learned that it is important to keep a balance, as I've gotten older pretty much. And at the moment, I'm currently trying to major in criminal justice. My original plans before COVID was to go to Sacramento and, get the best education there pretty much. But because of COVID, there's nothing wrong with this, I like it, but I originally wanted to go to Sacramento, but I'm going to Sonoma State right now, and I hope to become a juvenile probation officer and, help other kids like me who have gone through similar stuff, and just give them that right mentorship that I've received, and, just pay forward pretty much.
Yeah. Luis, thank you for sharing your story. I want to tell you that my stepson is a probation officer, and I know he would have been proud to serve with you on the Sonoma County Probation Department team. You're an amazing young man. Comments in the chat, thanking you and expressing appreciation for your courage and your intestinal fortitude to tell your story here tonight. Thank you very much for being here. All of us really appreciate it, because you're having the lived experience that we're all trying to respond to. One of the questions that I was asked here is, would you mind talking about your experience with this uncertainty and how it affected your ability to study, to buckle down, to focus on your education, and also the access that you had to the resources you needed around scholarships and financial aid, and the kind of support that you got from the community to get where you are right now?
Well, I knew that most of the time it was up to me, like my mom always says, ganas, you just have to have,
That's right.
ganas, to do something in life, and honestly, I know there's a bunch of help, in the community, it's just up to me if I want to reach out, for it, the help is always going to be there, it's just up to the person pretty much. And I know I could have, done a little better, but I've been told everything happens for a reason, and I'm gonna make the best out of my situation, and just pretty much just pay it forward. I believe that was the last of your question, right? I mean, yeah, I believe it's just up to the person pretty much. If
Right.
the person, if they have ganas, if they want to really make something out of themselves, So I just want to make the best out of my situation, and just see how many people I can impact, throughout my life.
You are an inspiration, and you're going to inspire many, many. We will be lucky to have you working and living in our community and raising your family here. I want to throw the next set of questions to Nidia. we've gotten a number of questions about the likelihood of the passage of the legislation at the federal level that you referenced, particularly in support of the Dreamers Path, and also the agricultural workers path to legal status in the United States. Can you share, with everybody assembled here, what do you think the likelihood is of the Senate taking up this legislation? What can we do? What is our call to action, do you think, so that we can influence Senator Alex Padilla and Senator Dianne Feinstein to push for this legislation coming forward? I've got a long list of our local Congress people in the greater Bay Area and the North Coast. And I'm happy to say those names. But what do you think the likelihood is? What can we do to help mobilize and catalyze and lean into your effort in Washington, D.C.?
I think the more that senators hear from their constituents, the more that they will feel the pressure, the more that they will feel that this is a priority issue. And so I think, California being home to almost 40% of the country's immigrant population, this is a priority for the state of California. And so even though I'm based in DC, I'm often approaching policy from the perspective of Californians because I work for the ILRC. And so I see that I really do believe, and this is the ILRC's approach, that power comes from people. And so if people show up and talk about why this is important and why there needs to be a path to status for Dreamers and why there needs to be a path to status for agricultural workers, that pressure has to be sustained. It has to be over a period of time. And it has to come with like a very clear ask. So if you're going to a meeting and you're sharing your story, you're saying, Senator Padilla, I really want you to make sure that in the next, whether it's part of one of the relief packages, whether it's part of a budget reconciliation package, whatever it might be, we want to make sure that you are prioritizing a path to citizenship as part of that bill. I really think that that's the most important thing that we can all be doing. I spend a lot of my time helping folks do meetings like that. And so if anyone is interested in that, that's something that the ILRC does a lot of, and we're really happy to help and serve as a connector. Yeah.
Thank you. When you say that 40% of immigrants in America are residents of the state of California, you know what that says to me? That says to me that our local community, the state of California's immigrant community, and all of us who are allies around it have enormous, not just political power, but economic power, and money speaks. But for our immigrant community here in the state of California, we wouldn't function. We wouldn't be the number 5 or 6 economy in the world. And somehow that message has to be communicated to Senators Feinstein and Padilla. Thank you, Oscar Pardo, for putting their contact information here in the chat. I also want to just point out to people that that's a message that needs to go to our congressional representatives as well. Congressman Mike Thompson, Congressman Jared Huffman, Congresswoman Barbara Lee in Oakland, Congressman and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, Jackie Spears, Zoe Lofgren, Ro Khanna, Eric Swalwell, on and on in the Bay Area. I know KBBF's radius touches something on the order of 14 or 17 counties. So it feels like all of you who are listening to this need to reach out to your Congress people and get them engaged in moving this forward so that it can be heard at the Senate level and really engaged at the Senate level for direction and for action. Moving on, if I may, Margaret, we've also gotten a question about Sonoma County Secure Families funding. Who are your supporters? Who are your donors? And I'll just come out right now and tell you that I mean, you know this, but others wouldn't. I'm a Sonoma County Secure Families donor through my United Way of the Wine Country payroll deduction. And we have a workplace campaign, and I make my gift to the Sonoma County Secure Families Fund through that payroll deduction, who are your supporters and how can they be making donations to support you?
Well, we have numerous supporters, fortunately, as you mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, coming from the city, the county, the foundations, the Grayton tribe. We have been very fortunate. We've also had private donations, and we welcome any type of support, financial support. We have a donate button on our website, so it could be a one-time donation or it could be a continuous donation. So we welcome any type of financial support that you're able to provide, and also any type of action, advocacy, maybe volunteering or donating supplies or something to help us, or marketing, with marketing or other efforts to get the messaging out to the immigrants in our community, so that they know that we're here and we support them.
That's fantastic. And one additional question before we move on to a question for Nubia. Clarification, you are supporting Sonoma County Secure Families Fund is providing services to immigrant families, certainly. And you're talking about all immigrants, right? You're not just talking about folks who are here without legal status, correct?
Absolutely, all immigrants. Yes.
Fabulous. Okay, Nubia, question for you. The complexity of the mental health challenges, issues, trauma that immigrant individuals and their families are experiencing is certainly complicated, multifaceted, and intersectional with all aspects of their lives. When you think about the interventions that are most effective, or particular issues that are most challenging, what are you finding in your experience is most challenging, and what is most effective for meeting those challenges?
Oh, that's a good question. I can tell you that first, the immigrant come to an environment that is unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know how to navigate the environment and what the expectations of this new system is. So sometimes they get in trouble because of that. But they also face a lot of inequities just because the system was designed thinking of that immigrant that's coming is designed to cater to other population or other population in mind. So for instance, when you ask a person to get medical services, you ask them to make an appointment in the computer when many of them don't even have Wi-Fi or access to technology, so on and so forth. So that's important. But the other thing I have seen is that it's a lot of talk about equity. But when we talk about equity, we don't understand that equity is serving the people, catering to them, to their needs where they are. Nowhere. And so I hear people saying, oh, why they don't speak English? Yeah, but they don't. So what are we going to do?
Right.
And the entitlement is something that really affects the mental health of the person that is a subject of this entitlement. So when we see the immigrants and we profile that person as less than or less capable than, so we are setting a precedent for that person not to pursue other goals and to advance. And at last, I want to say one of the big obstacles is the lack of sense of belonging. If we want to do something for this community, for the community immigrants, it's help to establish a community where people feel that they belong.
Agreed. Hey, Nubia, I have for a long time been a supporter of the Sonoma County LGBTQI Giving Circle and Pride United, which is the giving circle at United Way of the Wine Country. And something that really personally speaks to me a great deal is that sense of belonging that LGBTQI immigrant individuals do not feel. that they're in the closet because they are immigrants to the United States, and they're in the closet because they are part of the LGBTQI community, and particularly if they are transgender. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and that I was going to say, and I didn't talk about that because I thought we don't have time, but we are creating by doing this second class and third class citizens. And when you have this, and the system actually caters to that. So when the person feels that they don't have the same access, or that they cannot enjoy things the same way that it creates, that by itself is a trauma. And this trauma is so hard to undo because you learn to respond to these things. It's so hard for a person, even after they come out the closet, in the case of the LGBTQ community, it's so hard to feel that they can enjoy the same things that other person enjoy, because for so long they were feeling that way. So that's why when they really need to come and look for people that support them, and people like them also that provide support. Right. And create groups of people that are their community and their immediate support. It doesn't have to be therapy. It will help a lot, but I think it helps define a niche, a place where they feel that they can start working toward that, healing that piece.
Yeah. So, you know, what I'm hearing in terms of the trauma experience, you're talking about depression and isolation, self-doubt, self-criticism, a sense of I don't deserve, I'm not worthy, I don't belong here, I'm not a part of what's happening in this community, I'm invisible here. It's a lot. It can shatter you psychically, psychologically, and so on. Well, thank you very much for the work that you're doing, Margaret and Nidia. Thank you so much for your leadership and courage. And Luis, thank you for showing up tonight and telling us your story, and helping us to be a part of your journey. Know that all of us are allies with you and want to see you succeed. And so many of us are going to make sure that you have the resources that you need, so that you do fulfill your dreams, and that you do become a new young leader and a new vital voice who's helping to lead and co-create everything that's going on in Sonoma County right now. You count, you belong here, and we want you here. Oscar Pardo, I think I'm going to turn the program back over to you to close us out.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Lisa, thank you for leading such a riveting and informative discussion with our panelists. We want to thank you so much for giving of your time and your experiences to share with the group. I want to let everyone know that immigration, and probably everyone already knows, it's not a topic we can handle in an hour. And our objective here in Cien is to continue to track immigration issues and to continue to bring programs with Secure Families Collaborative, with Humanidad, with all of you, so that we can continue to inform the community about what's happening in this space. With that said, Cien thanks you all tremendously for joining with us and giving us this information to share. Before we close out, I want to give a little plug for our next month's program. We're putting together a youth forum, and it's kind of dealing in the space that Nubia Padilla talked about, which is the mental health of youth during COVID and these times of social unrest. So we have some pretty powerful high school students who are stepping up to the plate and hopefully sharing their experiences with us, so that we can listen to what they've gone through this whole time, which, me being the father of teenagers, oftentimes I don't hear it until I hear it from them in other spaces. So this may be a wake-up moment for a lot of parents, and we're going to do our part to promote it heavily so that everyone can join and listen to that. I want to, Margaret, I'm going to give you a heads up here. I want you to plug again your fundraiser so that people can join it. I know it's a virtual program. I've already gonna be there. Sounds like a great thing. So go ahead and plug it one more time.
Would you mind putting up do you have if that's okay?
Oh, well, I'll need to get it up. Hold on. Okay. Let me see if I can get to it.
And Margaret, we have the link to the event in the chat.
Ooh. It might be getting cut off. I'll make sure that people get that information.
We'll have the crown at that fundraising event. Immigrants built the wine country. Tap onto that, go onto our website, you'll learn about how to sign up for it. Very wonderful.
Well, thank you all very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next month.